Before we dive into the world of horror, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button if you're enjoying the content. As a horror enthusiast, I've had the pleasure of experiencing over uh, 3 decades of chilling cinematic experiences. And let me tell you, Terrifier 3 is a delightful nod to the classics that have haunted my dreams for years. The scene where Art and Vicky find themselves in an abandoned house, reminiscent of the iconic attic window from the Amityville Horror, is a clever wink to horror aficionados like myself. Initially an obscure horror film called Terrifier in 2016. It has since developed into a comprehensive horror franchise featuring appearances in various productions, standalone movies, and even comic books. The latest addition to this series, Terrifier 3, has propelled the notorious yet beloved character Art the Clown into greater stardom, further cementing his status as a fresh horror genre icon. It's evident that the third installment of the series establishes Art as a persistent antagonist. A significant portion of its success stems from the fact that the Terrifier films consistently meet expectations, disregarding whether mainstream audiences appreciate it or not. Instead, they cater to their dedicated fan base, ardent aficionados of gruesome horror who are captivated by inventive, grotesque killings and an unforgettable villain whose amusing exploits make him impossible to despise. Well, the movie has been highly successful with most viewers, except those who leave before the end, and has even managed to impress critics somewhat unexpectedly. A significant part of the appeal of the third installment for horror enthusiasts lies in its clever tribute to the genre as a whole. For those who might have missed them, here's a list of 8 Easter eggs, appearances, and references from Terrifier 3. Spoilers for Terrifier 3 up ahead. There's his choice of weapon calls back to Silent Night, Deadly Night. The initial scene of the movie establishes a Christmas ambiance as Art, dressed as Santa, steps into a family's home on Christmas Eve. As he starts his violent rampage, killing everyone present, there's a certain familiarity to the situation, right? Notably, this is our first encounter with him in a Santa suit. And nevertheless, it isn't just what he's wearing that evokes a sense of deja vu. His selection of weaponry contributes significantly to this feeling. Audiences from older generations can immediately recognize the similarity. This could be rephrased as the use of an axe as Art's initial weapon in the movie suggests that his actions may have been similar to those of the character Billy Chapman from Silent Night, Deadly Night, who is often underestimated among slashers, which serve as cities. And with the Santa suit and Christmas setting, it evokes the image of Billy's killing sprees, as Art too chose an axe and wore a Santa suit during his rampage. It's challenging not to draw comparisons between these scenes and Billy's actions. Chris Jericho made a cameo in the movie. The recently released movie titled Terrifier is filled with cameos that might have gone unnoticed for those not deeply versed in horror. Yet, one notable appearance stood out to a wide audience. This appearance was graced by the renowned WWE wrestler Chris Jericho, recognized for his long tresses, rock star demeanor, and signature move, the Walls of Jericho. Interestingly enough, this wasn't his first time in the Terrifier series. That you could hardly miss his memorable scene. In the movie, Jericho's setting appears quite early, offering viewers a glimpse into Vicky's current state. From the initial film, and here Vicky teams up with Art, um, forming one of horror's deadliest duos. Although we learn in the second movie that she has been inhabited by the little pale girl and eventually bears Art's head, this sequel reveals their reunion and joint rampage. Tom Savini made a cameo in the movie. In a sequence after Art the Clown wreaks havoc and destruction in a shopping mall, local broadcasting stations interview eyewitnesses. Um, some viewers might recognize one of them as remarkably familiar, even though they couldn't quite recall where from Saba's. It turned out to be none other than horror legend Tom Savini, a face familiar to horror enthusiasts worldwide. He's had some very memorable appearances in other horror films. It's due to the fact that Savini is a multi-talented professional recognized in the field of prosthetic makeup and special effects, stunt work, direction, and acting. He is particularly renowned for his numerous guest appearances, although he gained prominence for his exceptional special effects work in horror films like Dawn of the Dead and Friday the 13th. He also has a reputation for making appearances in these terrifying movies. And one of his most iconic roles was as Sex Machine in the 1996 cult horror film From Dusk Till Dawn, where he was famous for his unique gun. The shower scene in Terrifier 3 is a nod to Psycho. Few horror movie moments are as recognizable as Alfred Hitchcock's shower scene in Psycho. This groundbreaking film set new standards for horror, paving the way for future slasher films. Among its many suspenseful scenes, there's one that stands out, a chilling sequence where the killer surprises and attacks their victim while she is taking a shower. An ode that even the master of horror would have found extreme. In the future, when we reach Terrifier 3, the iconic shower scene retains its significance and continues to echo the style of Psycho. However, modern movies handle such scenes differently, and Terrifier 3 takes this concept to new heights. Unlike traditional slasher films that may incorporate nudity or more gore than Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho ever envisioned, Art's reinterpretation significantly amplifies the intensity. He replaces the knife with a chainsaw, and trust me, the brutality and graphic violence portrayed would have left Hitchcock himself stunned and hurriedly exiting the theater. Jason Patric made a cameo in the movie. In the movie, Jason Patric's appearance stood out to many viewers who are a bit older. While today's audience might not recognize him, as he is now 58 years old, Patric is widely recognized by those who grew up in the 80s and early 90s, known for his roles in films like The Lost Boys and Speed 2: Cruise Control. Patrick was also a notable figure in Terrifier 3. He wasn't the only one. Although it was enjoyable having Jason Patrick in the movie, for those with a keen eye, he wasn't the only notable presence. In truth, there were several others, including established actors, stars from Damien Leone's earlier, less famous works, the film's producers, and even family members. The attic scene with Viggy references The Exorcist in one of the film's most chilling scenes. Art and Viggy barricade themselves in an empty house only for two pest controllers to arrive to do their job. Initially, Vicky viciously attacks her captive with a shard of glass in another part of the house. Later, she ascends to the attic where Art is tormenting his own victim. As Vicky observes him, she still clutches the menacing, jagged piece of glass, subtly hinting at potential danger by raising her skirt suggestively. A shocking ode to a scene that once had the same effect decades earlier. While Art carries out a gruesome act on his victim, Vicky responds in a chilling manner by indulging herself using a glass, creating one of the most unsettling scenes in the movie. As the room is splattered with blood, Art removes the face of his victim with a Stanley knife, reaching the climax that leads Vicky to her intended point. If you find the scene disturbing, it's entirely normal to feel that way. For modern viewers, though, it might be surprising to learn that this scene is a chilling reminiscence of an even more startling moment in film history. That memorable moment comes from the iconic horror movie, The Exorcist. Now, if you find this scene shocking, imagine how audiences reacted when they saw the demon using a crucifix instead of a piece of glass in 1973. Art in a rocking chair in a nod to Black Christmas. Damien Leone frequently expresses his affection for traditional horror films, consistently blending elements of these movies into his work. This trait was evident yet again in Terrifier 3. A striking homage to classic horror cinema appeared to be present when characters Art and Vicky found themselves in an abandoned dwelling. In a particularly unsettling scene from this setting, the camera captured Art seated in a rocking chair within an attic, surrounded by cobwebs and gazing out through a prominent window. And this points to a possible double callback. For those who remember the 1974 horror movie Black Christmas, it's challenging not to recall the image of an unidentified female character found nowhere in the film, seated in a rocking chair with a plastic bag covering her face. But despite some variations, this powerful visual seems to echo this classic horror scene. And then I meet it as a similar time in before we get a close-up of Art's face. There's a shot of him from behind sitting in a rocking chair, which reveals sitting in a rocking one. And then interestingly, many horror aficionados have observed that this window bears a striking resemblance to the ones seen in the 1979 adaptation of the Amityville Horror, staring through the broken door like in The Shining. At the beginning of the movie, it was evident that Terrifier 3 would delight fans of traditional horror, as it skillfully paid tribute to a well-known horror film in a noticeable manner. Uh, in the opening scene where Art terrorizes the family on Christmas Eve during his chase with the mother and her axe, she finds refuge in a room and locks uh, however, it wasn't this part that contained the Easter egg. Following a glimpse through a partially open door, uh, Art awkwardly pushes his head into the space, echoing Jack Nicholson's portrayal of Jack Torrance from The Shining. The chilling scene, which Jack makes this move and exclaims, "Here's Johnny," is widely recognized as one of the most terrifying moments in horror movie history. This latest display by Art the Clown serves to underline that we have a fresh terror symbol to fear. Although Art the Clown hasn't quite reached horror icon status yet, his rising fame with each Terrifier film and the franchise's success, given its modest start, hint at a promising future for him as one of the notable horror antagonists in this era. Or with a fourth Terrifier movie already planned, we can only imagine how expansive the horror domain created by Damien Leone and Art the Clown might become over time. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.